I have to say, every time I've had accelerated success in my career or look back and thought that was a really nice period in my career, it's when I took the trouble to do that. I listed down the activities that I'd have to do, and I made sure by the end of every day, I thought, yes, I did that one, I did that one, and I did that one. Every time I've done that, I've had much better success in my career. So my name's David Shimkus. I'm the Director Portfolio Manager for Leadership Development at Dell. That seems quite a large title, but effectively what it means is I look after curating and creating the leadership development for the director population across Dell. For those of you who may know Dell, it's a pretty large company. We make the computers, but there's also the software. There are the storage elements, the cloud elements, telecom, security. It's a very large concern. So we employ around about 130,000 people worldwide, operate out of 74 countries. And just in terms of that director population that I look after, there's around about 4,000 directors across Dell who are in various stages, either being very new or very tenured. And it's my role to make sure that they're getting that leadership development that they require. It was fair to say I pretty had a very average schooling. I left school with very average results, didn't perform particularly well, but was okay. And I trained as a sound engineer. That's what I really wanted to go in as. I wanted to work in recording studios, and I certainly did a little bit of that early on in my career. And then, quite frankly, I wanted to buy a flat. And working in recording studios at a very young age, that's never going to happen. And that was really important to me. I wanted to be able to own my own house and then move out. So I took a huge squiggly step sideways and got a job as a debt collector, which I had no experience in doing, for one of the high street banks. Now, the nice thing about where I was lived at that point in time, there were a lot of contact centers, a lot of financial services, and therefore it was, I suppose, reasonably easy to get into that line of work. You had to come across as confident. You didn't necessarily have to have experience in banking because they provided exceptional training, and it was amazing training that I received in there. So that was a very much a sideways move, and it was purely down to that life decision of, although I love music, I'm not going to make a career out of it. I'm not going to be able to get the flat I want to do. So that's why I moved into that position. Now, that was a really important role for me because, and I was so lucky to join that organization. They had an amazing training program there. So you spent 2 weeks in the classroom learning how to do everything, the systems. You spent another 2 weeks with a one-on-one mentor. Or coach, sorry, as it were. Then you spent around about a month within a mentoring environment, and then you joined your team. So it was a beautiful way to set it up. And I was so appreciative of that. And I think that's one of the things that defined what was important to me in roles, but also what was important to me going forward about, if you do things really well, if you pay attention to the little stuff, if you design things so that they are reasonably right first time, obviously you have to bear in mind that we do live in an agile world, then actually people really appreciate that. They appreciate what comes with that. So that was the first squiggle. The second squiggle was I saw a role again in Brighton, and a brand new outsourcing company, again a contact center, was opening in Brighton. And I thought, well, actually now's a really good time to change because it was just focused on banking. So I got a job within that contact center. And my role there was as sales trainer. Now, I'd never had any experience in sales. And I remember leaving my job on the Friday, starting my new job on the Monday. On the Monday, I was delivering sales training for, I think it was Virgin Energy. So that was like okay, all right. So straight in at the deep end. And I had no training on how to do any of those things. They sent me the slide deck on the Saturday. Some of that slide deck had some notes on it. And again, I think that was a defining moment for my career because it meant, okay, I know how to do training because I've moved within that training department within the banking. So I know how to do that. I know how to talk. I know how to do these softer parts of the skills. I just don't understand about the sales part. Well, that's okay. I can read up about that on the weekend. And on Monday, I delivered sales training and it went remarkably well. And I continued to do that. Obviously, every time I ran that course, I got better. And eventually I had a team of individuals who were doing those things, and that then grew. But it was very much a case of remember what you're good at and try to be good, try to polish up those skills that you're really good at, because they're transferable. You're just adding on things each time you move. And I think that's something that is really important when you're starting out in your career. Try to find what you're really good at, polish those skills, and just add things to that as you keep going, and be brave about what you add. Had I not been successful, I probably would have got some feedback, and I might have been better the next time. That's really the worst thing that was going to happen at that. But seeing as I was sent the deck on the Saturday, I figured, okay, well, that's the way they roll. We'll do it that way, shall we? So, I mean, that's one of the other major squiggles. Then I guess that company was eventually bought by a FTSE 250 organization, financial services organization. And I was then head of learning development for the whole group for a couple of years. And we had a number of subsidiaries. And there was that growing naturally within the role, just saying yes to stuff, just go, okay, I'll do that, or I need to hire someone. And it was soaking it up as much as possible. So that was a really interesting part. And again, what I learned is if you do things well, properly for outcomes and measurable outcomes, people really appreciate that. People go, okay, I trust you. You're a safe pair of hands. I'll let you get on with it. That's really nice. Well, the focus for Dell, it's certainly within that director space, is partly to make sure that newer directors are really growing and scaling into the role as quickly as they possibly can. Quite often, certainly in some parts of the industry, certainly in some parts of Dell, that director role is your first major leadership role. So you don't necessarily have many years of experience at lower levels to then kind of hit the ground running. Whereas on other parts of Dell, to then get into a director position, you probably have to be leading for 20 years in other positions. So it's quite a diverse director pool. So the focus is trying to make sure that all directors feel that they can grow quickly, scale quickly in role, and deliver really good leadership principles. Dell has very strong core values, very strong leadership principles, and we measure that on a regular basis. So it's making sure that happens. That's one of the main areas. The second area is making sure that directors are looking back at their teams and consciously growing their talent bench, as they call it. It's an American company, so they call it your talent bench. And really looking at, okay, who's next? How do I develop my next leaders? How do I create succession planning? But as you can imagine, within Dell and an organization within the technology industry, everything's changing. There's more automation, there's more workforce automation, there's more AI, there's more telecoms, there's more multi-cloud. And it's how you bring your team with you and develop that talent bench so that your talent bench is fit for purpose now, but also 12 to 18 months. And in many cases, that's like looking into a sort of a crystal ball, because we don't know what that's going to be, but we got some pretty good ideas. So that's the major driver there. The second thing that I'm looking at within Dell population, within that director population, is how to get the more tenured and more senior directors more targeted learning, so very specifically around innovation or strategy creation and execution, around data and analytics, so that's that part of area, so they can make better decision making, but also around things like your finance areas, that those commercial skills that are really important if you want to make that next step. So again, we're looking to create the next VPs or SVPs of the future. So yeah, they're my drivers. I often come back to this one piece of advice. It was a piece of advice that was given to me, and it's actually in a training course. I sat down and I worked out what my brand values were, what I wanted to be known for, and how I wanted to come across, and that legacy that I wanted to have. And you work that one out. That's obviously going to be different for everyone. And that's really important to get right, because if you do that, you're happier in what you do because you're living yourself authentically. From there, I wrote down what I had to do every single day to live that, to earn that. And that came down to tactical things. Like I remember one of mine in the early days was smile more. In debt collecting, you don't smile. In sales, you smile a lot more. And actually, I said, I need to smile more. People need to feel me as more welcome. And I have to work on that every day. I have to say, every time I've had accelerated success in my career, or look back and thought that was a really nice period in my career. It's when I took the trouble to do that. I listed down the activities that I'd have to do, and I made sure by the end of every day, I thought, yes, I did that one, I did that one, and I did that one. Every time I've done that, I've had much better success in my career. And when I've taken my eye off the ball and got busy, that's when I felt it stalled a little bit. That's my piece of advice. Yeah, live it every day. And if you don't, then okay, you have the consequence of that.